Welcome to Hackon Online. On your right-hand side, you have the opportunity to ask questions. So if you have anyone to Ali, please enter them there. It's a pleasure for me to present Ali Uzun. Welcome to Hackon.
Hello. So let me just introduce myself before I start. My name is Ali Uzun, working here in Sokedar as a senior solution engineer. Today we're going to discuss about many topics regarding Norwegian companies and attacks that is happening in Norway country. So if you guys have any question, you can just type it on the chat, and then we can discuss about it after the presentation ends. So I believe that everything is visible on your screen, that you can see the presentation right now. We're going to talk about the many topics as I introduced myself before, working here as a senior solution engineer. So let's start with the agenda. We're going to talk about cyber attacks on Norway. We're going to see some statics from Soccer platform, and then we're going to see some statics from Shodan too. So as you guys know, like cyber attacks are becoming more important than before because technology is improving a lot rapidly, which means actually it's quite important. And then actually becoming more risky than before. And so we're going to talk about the major attacks that is happening on Norway. And of course, we're going to give you some examples in real life that you can see what attack happened in previous years in Norway and what we should do for this kind of stuff, and many actions that we can handle from Socrates platform or many other things. Like the timing is the most critical part in cybersecurity, as you guys know, because we may need time to get ourselves ready against the attacker. So that is why we should keep an eye. We should be aware of what is happening on Norway and in companies. If there is any risk, we should handle it and then get ready ourselves too before something happens. This is the main goal of cybersecurity, as you guys know. So let's start with the first one, which is cyber attacks on Norway. As you guys see here, Visma hack in 2018. I'm sure that as you heard about it before, because APT-10, a Chinese national state group, successfully penetrated Visma and Norwegian companies specializing in cloud-based, as you guys know, and business software solutions, primarily serving the European market. The breach orchestrated by APT-10 and resulted in an unauthorized extraction of data from the targeted company, as you guys know. So here in the Visma hack, so as you guys know, like this kind of things can be happen. And 2018 was different than now because some attackers can use. And then APT-10 was really famous, especially for Norwegian companies. So, but of course, the things are changing a lot, especially in this day. So let's head up into the next example and see what happened for the next company. The next company is, and an example is Norsk Hydro, which is happening in 2019, and the Norsk Hydro experiences the cyber assault attributed to a PT group FIN6 or FING, sometimes they call it like that, also known as a skeleton spider. The attack involved the utilizations of Lucker Giga ransomware, showcasing in the APT group's penhance for financially motivated cyber crimes and with a focus on industrials and corporate entities, which is quite important because, like we were talking about the attack happened in 2018, but now we are talking about the attack which happened on 2019. And I'm sure that everybody knows about it, but the ransomware attacks was too famous in 2019. So this is an example which has happened on Norsk Hydro, which is a Norway company, and in 2019. Let's head up to the next example regarding Norfund, because we are going year by year that we can see the attack, how they change, and many other details. So during 2020, Norfund, the stated investment fund of Norway, you can actually know about it, encountered a substantial cyber attack characterized by business mail compromise. As you guys know, like business mails are quite important because professional mails, everybody using the same domain, right? Anybody get hacked, that means it's risky for your company too. So that is why it is quite important. This is really good example for that as well, because in this incident, attackers successfully infiltrate the fund's mail system and orchestrating manipulations of communications. But this is the main point, because as a result of substantial amount of money around NOK, which is your currency, 95 million, which equals to $10 million. Can you guys imagine that? Because it is quite high amount, and was redirected to the account under the control of the attackers actually. So we easily understand from this example is the high amounts always causing by an attacker, which is quite important for the companies. Let's set up the next example, which is coming Norwegian Parliament, a mail breach in 2021, China linked cyber attack, which is quite important because on March 10th, 21, the mail system of the Norwegian Parliament experiences the cyber attack. Actually, this subsequently linked to the Chinese hacking group. This highly sophisticated cyber industries, especially targeted to parliament's communication and the raising in fracture resulting in a compromised its mail system. I mean, this kind of thing is really important because the mail system and mail breaches are causing millions of things and harms too. And as you guys know, from this incident raised substantive concerns regarding cybersecurity and safeguarding of sensitive governmental communications. So government is quite sensitive, right? As you guys know, we should keep them eye, and that I'm sure that some other people from here working in governmental sector, which is they have millions of sensitive data, and this mail breaches can cause to stole this sensitive data too, and they may cause a lot of harms too. And the next example in 22, Killness DDoS attack in campaign. I mean, as you guys know, DDoS attacks are really, really famous. It became famous actually in 22, and it's becoming more important than before every single year. More than 40 Norwegian organizations and countries coordinated cyber offensive orchestrated by Killnet, as you guys know. And the pro-Russian hacker group, which we call pro-Russian hacker group, is quite important too, because as far as I know, the pro-Russian hacker group is famous in Norwegian companies as well. These attacks primarily involve DDoS tactics, causing distribution to the digital operations of various entities in Norway. So actually, it's quite important because in this incident underscored the escalating geopolitical and dimensions within this realm of cyber warfare, which is quite important too. So I mean, I'm giving the reason that I'm giving this examples to be able to understand what is happening in real life in Norwegian companies, because I'm sure that you're aware about these companies. You already heard about these companies before, and we should learn something from previous attacks before something happens on our company. So that is why these are really examples that we can learn millions of things as well. The another example coming from last year, because ransomware attack on DNV in 23. DNV, a prominent Norwegian maritime firm, and fell victim to serious ransomware attack that had widespread and affecting approximately 1,000 visits, which is quite a amount, as you guys know. And of course, the cyber incident specially targeted to ship manager software and critical component responsible for overseeing operational, tactical, and compliance facets of shipping fleets as well. This is quite important because once we are talking about 1,000 vessels, which is high amount, and the other important is the incidents targeted to ship managers and software, which is quite interesting too. Yeah, we got some examples regarding in real life. We see what happened, what we should do. So to sum it up from examples, we should keep changing our password, which is quite important. The first thing that we need to do as a cybersecurity. Another thing, we should keep our sensitive data insecure. We need to actually cover them in our company, because as you guys know, some attackers can steal your data and can sell these data on the marketplace, and some attackers can purchase this data from the marketplace too. So that is why we should learn this kind of things from these attackers to be able to secure our companies too. And just okay, the numbers are really important, right? We need to talk about the number of mentions in dark web recorded by Sokedar too. So that is why here's the graphical things that we can easily understand, because from this graphical view we can easily understand dark web is becoming more important than the before. As you say here, 23 is almost like double of 22, which is quite important. What we can understand from here, actually, dark web, the place is becoming more important than before. So we should keep an eye on the dark web, what is happening, if there is any data that relevant to your company in dark web, if there is any employees credential leakages in dark web. So we should make sure about this kind of things to be able to secure our data and secure our company too. Another study, the most mentioned industrial in dark web, specialized in Norway. This amounts actually recorded by Sokedar, but specialized only Norway country. Keep in mind that this result only for Norway, not all around the world. So we can easily understand the most mentioned industry in the dark web, which is the first one is information and telco. I'm sure that everybody aware of it because information and telco industries are really important once we are talking about Norway country. And the public administrators and the rest of them are following it up, but the highest number is belonging to actual information and telco, which is quite important. Let's talk about the subject and the mentions in the dark web. As you see here, selling data percentage is above global percentage, and as you know, like the as you know, like there are millions of dark web markets and black markets. We call it Genesis market, Russian market, black market, and all this kind of like that. And as you guys know, like most of the attackers, they steal sensitive data from the companies and they put this data on the marketplace for sale, right? So we should be aware if there is any sensitive data that relevant to our company in the marketplace for sale, because otherwise, if somebody purchased it before you, that means they're gonna have your data. So we need to make sure every day that we need to make sure if there is no any data in the marketplace regarding our company. Because if somebody got your data, that means they will have way to attack you by using this data. So it is quite important. And of course, sharing data is also quite important, but not as like selling data, because the Norwegian data is valuable. Global average for 23 is slightly less than 40, which is quite important too. Once we are talking about the number of ransomware attacks recorded by Sokedar, as you can understand from the numbers from here, year by year, the ransomware attacks becoming less than the previous year, which is attacks are changing. Types of attacks are changing too, because I'm sure that everybody's hearing different kind of attacks every single day, right? Let's say ABC attack. We never heard about it, but it happens. So that is why the decrease on 23 is possibly related to downfall of Conte, which was the most active group in Norway. As can be seen in the next slide, we're going to see the most active ransomware groups in Norwegian companies and Norway. Lockbit is quite famous in Norway. I'm sure that you got some troubles with them before. I'm sure that you guys got maybe some experiences regarding Lockbit 2 and then the 3 version, and they're attacking millions of times, especially if they're focusing on Norway country. I don't know why, but they're focusing on Norway comparing to other companies. But of course, not only for this attacker, also Revil, Alpvium, Black Cat, these are also famous in Norway. But once we are talking about Lockbit, is the famous one for ransomware attacks for Norway countries. Let's talk about the most attacked industries, because I'm sure that you guys from different industries, and we need to know which are the famous for the attacked industries. The retail trade is quite high, and manufacturing is quite high too for Norway, because as you guys know, the manufacturing and retail trade is really important once we are talking about the productions and many other stuff like that for Norway country. And of course, it doesn't mean that the rest of are not important. These are also important, especially once we are talking about clothing stores, because as we know, like the weather is quite cold in Norway. I'm sure that it affects clothing stores, tech kit industries a lot, and information tech and utilize quite important. We can check the numbers. They're almost like everything is high in number, but of course, once manufacturing related is high because of the productions are really important in Norway too. Let's talk about some vulnerabilities because, as you guys know, everybody has vulnerabilities, everybody has technologies, and some vulnerabilities can affect our technologies too, right? And then everybody using Apache servers in actually in our companies. And these are the results coming from Shodan because, as you guys know, Socket has also capability to monitor Shodan results as well. So here the result from vulnerable Apache service in Norway, total number is 700, which is a high amount actually. And it also has the highest number comparing to other cities. And the Apache service, vulnerable Apache service are quite important because we need to get patch. We need to upgrade our servers as soon as possible once we have any vulnerable Apache service. Because otherwise, if we stay on the same version, that means some attackers can use that way to attack you. So that is why it's quite important. The next showdown result is from internal facing MySQL databases. As you guys know, this is also really, really important. And we can easily understand it from the number. It is almost 1,500 findings from Norway, which is, can you guys believe that number? Because it's quite high once we're comparing to the Apache service in Norway. So the same results for the cities as well. The highest number of these cities is on Oslo, but of course the other cities also had a couple findings as well. But 1,500 is quite high. That means we need to focus on interfaces MySQL to be able to upgrade our versions to be able to be in secure way for this kind of issues. Another one, internet facing DVR services. Let me introduce the DVR services, what there is, if somebody knows about it. Actually, the DVR service is always like everybody has camera systems, everybody has microphone systems and stuff like that, right? So some attackers can reach your DVR services, which means that they can easily watch you and monitor your everything else internal facing. So that is why it's quite important. And then the some static from Shodan too. It's not quite high number comparing to others, but it is also really important number because 300 is also a little bit high. And also the same, actually the highest number equals 85 comparing to other vendors, actually other cities. These are the results from internal facing DVR service, which means we need to keep updating our camera systems, keep updating any other services that is equals to DVR services. What about the routers? Internal phase routers is also quite important because more than 50% possibly has an internal phase and login pages at port 80, because port 80 is quite sensitive. And if somebody sees that port is critical from your system, that means that they can use that way to be able to attack you, right? And of course, these are the other ports like 443, 23, and 8000, and many other ports. But as you see here, 80 port quite sensitive. And if we can understand from here, 80 ports are the highest number that we are getting from Shodan for Norway country. So which means we need to focus on this port a lot to be able to block the attackers in case of if somebody knows your port 80 is open or any critical things that they can use that way to be able to attack you, right? So we explained millions of things. We start with the actually attack happening in Norway, right? We explained, we did some examples to be able to learn something. We explained the dark web findings because we said that the dark web is becoming more important than before since the technology is improving rapidly, which means the dark web is becoming more important than before too. And we explained it with the ransomware attacks. We mentioned about this different kind of results from Shodan 2 and many other details, right? But let's talk about where the magic happens. It happens from Socket platform. You can just scan the barcode to be able to get 14 days free trial, and you're going to be able to check the functionality and features and capabilities with Socket platform 14 days free trial that you can easily understand the result. You can easily see the risk level of your company, and if there is any dark web findings regarding your company too, and many other things like that. So actually, I finished and my presentation. I hope everything is clear in your mind. But as we mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, if there is any question, if something is not clear in your mind, please don't hesitate to put it on the chat that we can discuss about it right now. And thanks for your time. I finished my presentation, and I hope everything is clear in your mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali.
My
Kim Bjørn Jensen is asking, do you know what types of hacked data are being sold and what are being shared?
Yeah, it is really good question, because the datas we mentioned about the datas, because datas are everything for the companies, right? We mentioned about sensitive data. Some datas cannot be important, but some datas can be really sensitive. I'll give an example for that. For example, credit card leakages. As you know, 16-digit number of the credit card is quite sensitive. The other one is employee credential leakages, and this kind of data are really sensitive. And once we are talking about the Norwegian companies, as a result of this, I can easily say that the first thing is employees credential leakages, and second thing is credential for credit card leakages, like 16-digit number, CVV code, or 3 CVV code back from the back of the card. And is it personal information? Is it business? I mean, it depends actually. Sometimes it can be personal information too, but most of the cases we can easily see the data and informations are coming from business part, which is quite important, because business data are really critical, especially once we are talking about the employees' credential leakages, because employees are using the professional mail addresses, which means they are using the same domain that yours, right? Once one of your get hacked, that means it's going to be risk for all company, right? Let's say I'm working in your company and my professional mail has been leaked by an attacker. What's going to happen? It's going to affect your company too, because since I'm using the same domain that yours as yours, so it is also affecting your company too. It's becoming risky for your company too. That's why I recommended to change your password every single period, every single frequency, to be able to make sure it is hard to figure out. The password combination could be letters and including numbers and many other different combinations, to be able to secure and to be able to hard to find from the attacker. Another question that I can help you guys. I hope everything is clear in your mind.
We have a question from Kjetil. He's asking if you could upload your slide set and share it with the audience.
For sure, we'll do. You can actually check the graphical numbers and many other things that we mentioned from presentation. And please focus on the numbers a lot, because numbers are explaining a lot of things. And we need to learn something from the presentation to be able to understand the upcoming threats, upcoming future attacks. Because if we don't get prevention ourselves, that means we can affect from the attackers as well, because attacks are trying to find the best time to be able to attack you. If you're not ready, they're going to attack you in unexpected time. So that is why it is quite important to focus on the attackers, especially once we were talking about the ransomware attacks a lot. That means we should do something to get ready yourself from ransomware attack, DDoS attack, and especially for black market findings as well. How are these statics for the dark web mentions of Norway completed? How do you make sure you find all relevant mentions or different platforms such as so? Yeah, it is a great question. Thank you for that. Since Socketr thanks to Socketr platform and automation, because we can find geographical findings, each region and each country as well. We are making sure about this kind of things because we have monitoring system from the dark web. We have monitoring system for dark web for against the attackers, because like we should know the attackers what they do. As far as you understand from the presentation, Lockbit was the first line, right? Lockbit is the famous one for Norway. And what we do, for example, we keep monitoring Lockbit groups. Believe me, like even they drink water, we know about it. Even they go somewhere else, we know about it. And then once we follow them and their behavior, that means we are going to be aware of their tactics, we are going to be aware of their IOCs and plans. So in this case, we can actually get prevention ourselves before something happens. And then once we come to your question, these statistics are coming from our automation, because we are actually getting the result from automation and putting on the desk to be able to see the percentages and to be able to see which attackers are the most famous one and which the type of the attack or for famous one each region, which is quite important too, because like the types of attacks are depending on the country basis. If we are talking about, let's say, United States, we can talk about different kind of attacks and different kind of attackers too. But once we are talking about Norway, it could be different. So which means we don't need to focus on the attacks are not happening in your country, but we need to focus on the attack which are the happening in Norway a lot and more frequency. Any other question that I can help you guys?
Lars Rubensen is asking, when do they start using generative AI as tool for attacks?
Yeah, I mean, as an attacker's perspective, they already start using that. As far as I know, last October, they already started using it. But the thing is that as a cybersecurity companies, I'm not only talking about SOC radar. For cybersecurity companies also, they start using the AI, because artificial intelligence is quite different. As you know, like, it changes a lot. The technology is growing up, and it affects the technology. It affects attack types, attackers a lot too. So if the attackers they use artificial intelligence, your cybersecurity vendor should use the artificial intelligence too to be able to block them. Because if they keep using it, if you don't, that means they can attack you in easy way. So they started using that on October 23. But of course, artificial intelligence is changing every single day too. They are upgrading their versions every single time. That means which means we need to be aware of the versions and changes and technologies and stuff like that to be able to block them out. So let's talk about a little bit for SOCADAR artificial intelligence too, because we started using artificial intelligence a couple months ago. That means we can actually get mitigations or recommendation from artificial intelligence with really easy way, because you're going to receive an alarm from SOCADAR platform, but sometimes it doesn't make sense. You cannot understand the point of the alarm, and you cannot understand what you should do with this alarm too, right? So that is why here artificial intelligence will give you some advices, will give you the actions that you need to take regarding your security postures as well.
And Ingeborg Hellemo also has a quite long question about some break-ins are part of a long game. University of Tromsø had what we believed were Russian guests in our system in December 2020. Not ransomware or destruction. We were wondering what they were after, and 2 years later, PSD arrested a Russian spy on the campus.
Yeah, I mean, once we are talking about the universities, as far as my experiences I had with the universities, they have millions of assets. Asset means their domains, their IP addresses. They have quite more than the other institutes. So that is why they should keep an eye on their assets to attack surface management. That is why it's quite important. Attack surface management, place that where we make sure the assets are insecure or no. Once we are coming to your question, yeah, they get arrested in 2 years later. But of course, the legal ways are actually being so slow according to other planes, because like something happening, but these attackers are really we cannot understand who are they. Sometimes we cannot understand the name of the attacker. They are actually hiding their names sometimes, which makes to get arrested 2 years later or 3 years later. So that is why it is long game. And what, I can give you some examples regarding long games. One time I encountered an attack was happening in Turkey, and it was like 2 years, believe me or not, because 2 years attack, it's like war, right? It's like battle from each countries like that. So, but sometimes it can just like a few seconds, or it depends on the attack type. It depends on the attacker, and it depends on the company size too. But once as far as I said just before at the beginning, the universities are quite important because since they have millions of assets like IP addresses, they have millions of domains, and they need to make sure if there is any risk on their IP address or on their domains. And the last thing that I would like to mention, they need to make sure if the ports are open behind their IP addresses, because otherwise the attackers, if they see that the open port, let's say RDP port, they can actually reach you out by using remove desktop, and then they can get everything as regarding your companies, which can be really sensitive. Any other questions that I can help you guys? I hope everything is clear in your mind. Yep.
Fredrik is asking, can you compare Norway, Sweden, and Denmark in the light of tools, ways attacker work in those different countries?
Yeah, I mean, regarding the countries that you mentioned on the chat, actually, I can easily say that Norway is the highest one, because we see some attacks in Sweden, in Denmark as well. But I'm not saying the Norway the first one, but Denmark and Norway is quite high. But Sweden is not that much Norway and Denmark. But of course, we never know. Sometimes changing a lot. Maybe tomorrow is gonna be different than today. So that is why we should be aware of the attack, because you know what, attackers, what they do, they're actually focusing on the countries which they don't have many attacks. Let's say once we are talking about Sweden, they don't have too many attack, right? But they can actually immediately attack you by using this, because if the country has millions of attacks, that means the companies from that country means they are already aware of these attacks and they are already ready for that. But attackers, what they do, let's say for African countries, the African countries and companies, they don't get ready themselves against the attackers, so they can easily attack them and get the data and then get many other sensitive things from them, which easy way. So that is why we don't need to focus on the most targeted countries, but of course we should learn something from other countries as well. Maybe it can be for your country too. But comparing to these three countries, I can easily say that Norway and Denmark, most targeted countries, comparing to Sweden, actually. Any question that I can help you guys?
I think that was the last one, Ali.
All right.
So that means that concludes our session. Thank you, Ali, and thank you for watching.
My pleasure. I hope everything is clear in your mind. I'm sure that Hakan Group will share the presentation with you guys, and will be actually make sure you check the numbers, graphical things, overviews with the types of the attacks, and with the examples. Make sure you get lessons from these examples too. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and you guys have a great day. Thank you.